I think if you are a repeat offender where you keep getting fined money for, whether it's throwing your racket, cussing, any of the things you could potentially get fined for. I strongly believe that we should make these players do community service. And some of that community service could be something like going and picking up trash on the side of the highway. Okay. Going out there, picking up trash, serving the community well, or spending time with some sick children that need the company or elderly people, potentially scanning badges at Wimbledon.
I like that. So you're saying community service at the tournament. So during that week, it'll be community service that week. I like that.
Welcome to the Big T podcast presented by ServiceNow. I'm BG Brad Gilbert from HQ in Santa Monica. We've got a big show today. Former world number 7, 2022 Aussie Open finalist Danielle Collins is in the house, and former top 30 ATP doubles star Nick Monroe. And Nick, what's on tap for the show today?
BG, thanks for that intro. Always so fun to be with this crew, but it is a big show, action packed. How about Serena Williams has a wild card into the singles at Wimbledon? Also, it was a massive weekend for the Americans on the grass. Then we're going to have special guest Holger Rune. He's going to join us, former world number 7. He's coming back from an Achilles surgery. He's been out 8 to 9 months. And then also the Big T Mid-Year Awards. We're going to dissect that and the debut of BG's tips for the weekend warriors and how to get better in your tennis game. I mean, come on, BG. I can't wait for those tips. I need those myself. But the biggest thing we're going to start with right now, some news that just came out. Markéta Vondroušová will be serving a 4-year ban for refusing an anti-doping test. BG, I know you've worked with a lot of players, and Danielle Collins and I have been on the side of it as players with the doping test. What do you think of that 4-year ban for Vondroušová?
Well, first of all, just painful news to hear it. And it's not for a failed test. This one is one of those he said, she said. I did a little bit of reading about it this morning. And in December, they came to her house. And you sign this waiver form that as a player, you give them an hour a day, every day on your whereabouts. You can choose 6 in the morning. Like when I was with Coco Gauff, her time was 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Some choose the night. So, and every day you have to give, where you're at. So they show up at her door at 8 o'clock. Now, here is the discrepancy. She says they didn't properly identify themselves. Usually that's the first thing that they do is identify themselves. And she didn't open the door. Says that maybe she was a little bit scared about opening the door. But yet 15 minutes later, according to this reading by the ITIA, she went outside and walked her dog. So I don't know if that's a story that they're coming up with or they got it on video, but there seems to be, some definitely different stories here. There's going to be some lawsuits and maybe not the best advice the player got at the moment.
Yeah. What do you think, DC?
Yeah, it sounds like a really complicated situation. I've been on the player side of it. It's never fun when you have to get drug tested. But at the end of the day, we need drug testing in our sport, or otherwise it would be the Wild West. On the other hand, I do think there's a lot that goes on with some of the decision making behind player offenses. And with it being arbitrary, I think that's where, you start to kind of question, okay, how is there a 4-year suspension with this when, we had players who were ranked number 1 in the world, like Iga and Jannik Sinner, who had much shorter consequences for their offenses. To me, that's where I have some questions, I guess, when it comes to how they decide on the consequences for these players. I understand that there were some mental health issues cited in the documents that we had read through. I can completely understand if someone comes to your door late at night and the concerns around safety, especially after what happened with Petra Kvitova That was a pretty tragic thing for her. I cannot imagine what she went through thinking that she was opening the door for drug testing, and it ended up being a violent intruder who ended up really hurting her badly, and she was out for quite a while. So, I've spent some time, previously, doing practices with Markéta and being on court with her, and it would be hard for me to think that this was something malicious or nefarious. But I wasn't there. I think there's a lot, and I agree with Brad. It's a lot of he said, she said.
Yeah, there's gonna be an immediate appeal process, and I would assume a lawsuit, but it seems to me like best case scenario, she's gonna miss significant time, and she's already been out since December. That's the thing that, is most
Yeah.
confusing about this thing is, obviously, is she's continuing to be out, and why did she go walk the dog if that
Yeah.
really did
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, I think, maybe stay in the apartment at that time, especially after that happened. So, we'll see what's gonna happen from it, but, let's move forward to the Americans and how they were looking on grass last week. Pretty amazing stuff. Francis Tiafoe winning his first 500 title, beating 3 top 10 players on the way, beating Taylor Fritz in the final, hadn't beaten him in 10 years. Tommy Paul making the finals in Queens. He had won the title 2 years previously, wasn't able to play last year due to an abdominal injury, so playing well there. Jessica Pegula making the finals in Berlin, losing to Noskova. So the Americans are playing some ball on the grass. BG, which American do you think is going to have maybe the deepest run at Wimbledon, just by taking a look at what you've seen on the men's and women's side?
I'm gonna just say, especially on the women's side, there's massive opportunity at the moment. You don't really see anybody in the top that's like playing unbelievable tennis. So right now, I don't even know who the favorite is on the women's side.
Yeah.
And on the men's side, obviously, with Sinner not playing, Alcaraz being injured, there's a lot of opportunity. And I thought that's the best I've seen Francis look in consecutive matches. A lot of times he has a good win and then he kind of has a little drop off. I thought he played as good as I've seen him play on a consistent 3-day basis in a long time. And that jug, that giant jug that he's drinking on the gym, whatever, some 100 ounce a day
Got to
challenge.
stay hydrated.
Yeah, he's playing the best ball I've seen in a long time. So I might say, Francis at the moment, but I feel like there's opportunity for all the Americans at the moment. And you know what? Take advantage of the opportunity while it's there.
DC?
So I would say on the women's side, I was really impressed with Jess Pegula in Berlin this past week. I thought she played some great tennis. I think that she could make a deep run. I would love to see her have her best year at Wimbledon as a fellow American. I would say on the men's side, I've been singing Francis's praises all week. That was an incredible final. I just, after watching him throughout the entire tournament, getting the win over Felix and that long, lengthy tiebreak and seeing him kind of handle that situation. I feel like when I've watched him previously in long 3-set matches where he's had some chances against big name players, I feel like sometimes he can get a little passive and tentative in those moments and not play with the confidence I think we kind of expect him to play with his athleticism and his natural abilities. It was just such a joy to see him play with more freedom this past week and stepping up inside the baseline. I thought his serving in the final match, he never put himself in a position to get broken that entire match. That was huge for Francis. So I feel like he's the type of guy when he really locks in mentally and is so clear about his tactics with the way that he's improved with his stamina. I just think I think he could pick up many big trophies, and I want to see him lift up a Grand Slam trophy. I'm such a big fan of Big Foe.
Yeah, he's as fit as he's been, I think, in a long time. This new team has really helped him. And DC, I want to ask about the serve. One player we didn't even mention. How about the old serve bot, Ben Shelton, losing that one to Fritz?
Total
If he,
serve bot. Oh my
if
gosh.
he can just figure out the return a little bit, I think he would be a top 3 favorite to win Wimbledon. The serve, everything else about his game is great at the moment. Just got to figure out how to get a couple of breaks.
on the men's side, no one wants to see an American in their draw. I mean, I think, BG, we were speaking about this a couple episodes ago, kind of our top 3 grass court players. And we both had mentioned, Sinner, and we both mentioned Djokovic. You threw Taylor Fritz at number 3. I actually had him at number 3 as well, but Ben Shelton was also right there for me. And then if you're going to go Fritz, Shelton, Tiafoe, Paul, those would line out the 6 players that I would have with Sinner, Djokovic, and then those 4 Americans, because on the grass right now, just looking at the way that they're playing, with Shelton winning in Stuttgart, then Fritz then beating Shelton in the quarterfinals in Halle. Tommy Paul was up a set and a break, the finals in Queens against Serena. These guys have such all-court games, right? Shelton's going to serve and volley. Frances Tiafoe is going to look to get to the net. Tommy Paul as well. Taylor Fritz, just one of the best ball strikers in the world in general. So those 4 guys, no one wants to see
Let's
in the
just
draw.
hope,
So
Nick,
BG, I wouldn't be surprised we see 2 of those guys in the semis and then possibly in the final, just depending on the draw. All those guys are going to believe
that you
win.
just said the biggest word. Based upon where they're ranked, they could all be in the same quarter.
I know.
But you're right. The 4 American guys are playing really good ball, and you just hope that they're maybe spread apart amongst the draw.
Well, one draw we're going to be looking at as well is the women's draw to see where Serena Williams falls in the draw. She's gotten the wild card. She's going to be playing there at Wimbledon. BG, what do you think about her chances to make a deep run there?
First of all, I've been saying for a while, I thought for sure she was just going to play doubles. And if she did, it would maybe be this summer, like at a Washington or Cincy. So I'm surprised. It's just like she's starting off in a major. But I do have some intel. The last couple of days, she's been practicing at Orangi. And Darren Cahill told me that she's been playing the same time as Sinner. He said he watched her the last couple of days. I mean, she's been grinding 2.5 hours on the court. She was hitting with young Cruz Hewitt, Leighton Hewitt's son.
Wow.
And she said he said she's playing very good, looks a lot more sure of herself and confident playing singles. What's tricky is in doubles, sometimes, even though it's less movement, you're not always in control of what's happening, because you've got a partner. There's, it's stagnant times. He said she looked a lot more comfortable and was hitting the ball big and working a lot on first strike tennis.
DC, what do you think about her chances there to make a deep run at Wimbledon?
Yeah, look, I mean, I do think Serena's the GOAT. Serena's capable of anything. I think even with time off, I think she could beat any player on any given day. At the same time, I do think it's a little bit draw dependent, right? It could be interesting. She could go against, a qualifier first round, or she could play Sabalenka, and that could be, maybe a little bit trickier. Anything can happen on the women's side. So it's so hard to say, especially not having seen Serena play any singles matches leading up to this. I will say I thought she looked good in the doubles, and I'm really excited to see her take the court with Venus. Venus played a great match today. But yeah, it's really just tough for me to make a prediction on that. And I typically tend to say that Serena was one of my favorite players growing up. So I really believe that she can beat anybody, even having so many years off.
DC, I got a question for you. What do you think would be tougher? Obviously, she's draw dependent. That she plays like a Swiatek, a Sabalenka, a Coco Gauff, a top player who maybe she could be, or playing somebody 60 or 70 in the world that's a grinder that she doesn't really know.
Well, let's just hope she doesn't match up against someone like Madison Brangle, because that was an opponent that proved to be tricky for Serena. I think they may have played, I don't know how many times they played, but I know Maddie Brangle had beaten her once before. But somebody like that, who's kind of an unorthodox player, kind of hits like this back spinny ball, who's ranked a little bit lower, I think that could almost be trickier for Serena, where if she goes up against someone like Sabalenka, Rybakina, a top 10 player, she doesn't have as much pressure on her. And it's totally understandable if she doesn't get the win on her first match back, right? So I, in some ways, would love to see her take out a top 10 player in the first round or early rounds, than having to maybe, let's say, play somebody like Maddie Brangle or somebody that had to play matches through qualifying, that has had the match momentum and has already kind of gotten themselves settled into the grass court season. I think that could be a little bit trickier.
I think the biggest thing we're going to be looking at for Serena is the movement, getting in and out of corners. When you play somebody like a Sabalenka, they're going to hit the big serve and the big first strike. And, Serena would be on defense pretty quick. I would like to see her play someone where she can kind of get her teeth into the points, right? Be able to construct them the way she wants. I mean, Serena, when she was at her best, she was the first serve, first strike, and get it on you quick, right? If somebody else is able to do that and kind of maybe expose movement, I mean, age is undefeated, but at 44, Serena's a champ, right? She wouldn't play this unless she feels like she can win. And we're all there with her. What do you think would be the biggest win for Serena? Round of 16, quarter? What would be a win in Serena's mind or in your mind
Well,
for her?
first of all, from a coaching perspective, obviously hearing that she's working on her first strike tennis, and you would hope that she gets a match or two, she can somehow get into the tournament before playing somebody really good. But I don't think she's coming back, honestly, mentally thinking that I want to get to the second or third round. I think if she's coming back, her mentality, what made her so great is she probably actually thinks that she can win it, or at least compete to win it. You don't come back if you don't think you can compete to win it. That would be my guess. What do you think, DC?
Okay, I have a hot take on this. I might want this edited. I just want to fact check something real quick. So, when Margaret Court was playing, is it true, Brad, that it was like 10 of the Grand Slams in which she had won, like in Australia, that was only open to people like in Australia during that time? Is that not
No,
true?
I mean, not exactly, but like I don't count her record as the record. She won a bunch of the Aussie Opens when they were 32 draw, and there were like 3 or 4 foreigners that came over. The Aussie Open
Okay.
wasn't the tournament it was. She was
Okay.
still a
Okay. So I
great
can say that.
player, and she won like 70 majors, but I consider Serena having the most majors in the women's because when Margaret Court was winning those Aussie Opens, I don't know, it was a smaller tournament.
Okay. So yeah, Nick.
Give it to us. What's the hot take, Danielle?
Yeah, my hot take is I don't think Serena's out to prove anything to anyone. I think this is more about doing what she loves. I think she's going into this not with a ton of pressure. I mean, I think all of us in the tennis world agree that she's the one with the record holder for Grand Slams won, not Margaret Court. I do not consider Margaret Court's Grand Slam count to be something that I honestly take quite seriously because first of all, when Margaret Court won a lot of those Australian Opens, the draw size was 32 and there were only maybe 3 or 4 foreign players going over and competing in the Australian Open at that time. The Australian Open was a very different tournament during that time. It's not comparable. So I think anybody that knows anything about tennis and has been in this world knows that Serena is the record holder and that stat is really just a distraction away from everything that she has achieved and being the greatest of all time. So I think for Serena, she's going out looking to have fun, getting to enjoy what she loves again, getting to take the court with her sister, and, just bring all of her tennis fans some joy. I mean, I think we're all excited about seeing her out on court. And yeah, whatever ends up happening as a Serena fan, I'm okay with.
The chip draw on Friday. That's
Yeah.
what everybody's going to be watching. That's going to be the most watched chip draw.
Oh
They
my
still
gosh.
go old school. They pull the chip out of the cup. That's where Serena could literally go anywhere in the draw.
This is the Big T, presented by ServiceNow.
A reminder, the Big T Wimbledon preview show coming out this Saturday. Find it on all your podcast networks, plus YouTube and the Tennis Channel app. But guys, injuries have been a big role in 2026. Carlos Alcaraz with his left wrist injury. But hey, DC, we've seen Carlos Alcaraz in Marbella hanging out with supermodels. He's been enjoying some time away from the court. What do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, his injury this year has really kind of put a halt to some of the success that we were hoping to continue to see. But he's been enjoying his time. He's been recovering poolside and hanging out with some models, I've heard. But my bigger question is Where was the attention for me when I was hanging out with the male models? We're gonna have to go
You got
through the archives and
you
take
got to
a
win a
look.
few more Grand Slams like Carlos Alcaraz, and then
Yeah.
you'll get the supermodel attention. You know.
I was getting it. It just wasn't highly publicized, I guess.
Well, BG, another player that's really had some injuries to deal with, and a big injury was in October of last year. Holger Rune sustained an Achilles injury that he had to have surgery on. Been away from the game already for 8 months, and we're awaiting his return to the game, hopefully sooner than later. What do you think about Holger Rune? Because there for a while, he was the guy we were talking about. Sinner, Alcaraz, Rune. Could this be the next big three? What do you think about his game?
Well, first of all, he was definitely in that equation like 4 years ago, and those guys took a big leap forward, which he hasn't done. He's been posting now for quite some time videos of his rehab, and the thing I was worried about most was he had set, remember, Hamburg as his target date, taking a wild card and getting ready for the French. After such a devastating injury of an Achilles, which takes anywhere from 12 to 14 months, I was worried that he's rushing it. It's like, and tennis, obviously, you got no teammates, you got to get out there, your ranking dropping. But the worst thing you want to do is rush back. Maybe, with this time away at a young age, this is where you actually got to be constructive and maybe worked on parts of your game, even though physically you can. But, a guy that missed some time at a younger age made the best leap in his game I've seen of anybody during time away was Marin County Chilich. Remember, all he had was a little kick serve. Got Goran during that time away when he was away from the game. And the next thing you know, he developed a bomb serve and he's winning the Open. So I do think when you're away like this for a long time at a young age, it's really important that you add things to your game because obviously physically the tour is going on. So
Not just
hopefully
the
he's been
models.
able
You
to.
got to add things to your game.
Yes, no, definitely. Carlos is in a different situation than Holger. That's just my 2 cents about Holger, because I do think that, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, he was in the same mix as those two, but they definitely leapfrogged him.
Well, I got a chance to catch up with Holger Rune today. He was calling in from Monte Carlo. Here's what he had to say. Our guest today is one of the most exciting talents of his generation, a former world number 4, a Masters 1000 champion, and a player whose fearless shot making and competitive fire have made him one of the must-watch stars in our sport. After nearly 9 months away from the tour, recovering from an Achilles surgery, he's getting closer to doing what he loves again, competing on the biggest stages in tennis. We're thrilled to catch up with him and hear about the journey back. Please welcome Denmark's own Holger Rune and my good buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Good to talk to you again. It's been a while, so
It,
obviously not being on the tour, it's you missed some stuff.
it's been a while, man. I see the tan. You've been out there
Yeah,
practicing. I see. Is it pretty hot? Where are you right now?
I'm in Monaco. It's brutal weather actually. We have a heat wave here in the country, and it's really humid, really hot. But it's good, like getting used to the conditions on tour again.
Man, I saw on your Instagram story you were hitting some balls with Yannick Sinner maybe last week or so.
Yeah.
How has that been going? Just hitting balls again, being back on the court.
Yeah, honestly, it's been great. Hitting with Yannick was super good. The first pro player that I hit with after my injury was Grigor, and I remember I felt everything incredibly fast, but that's like 4 or 5 weeks ago now. And now hitting with Yannick, I think just a week ago, already felt much better. I feel like my feet were moving quicker. I was more in balance at the ball. Everything just felt nicer. So it was a very, very nice hit.
Well, I mean, every time that we've hit together, I mean, you always strike the ball right in the middle
Mhm.
of the strings. You're such a clean ball striker. But, as we said, we've missed you on tour. We've missed Holger Rune out there. It's been nearly 9 months since you
Yeah.
ruptured your Achilles at the Stockholm Open in October. At this moment, what does the timetable look like for your return to professional tennis? When will the fans be able to watch you play and compete again?
Yeah, this is the golden question,
I
This
gotta
is what
ask you. Come
this
on,
is the
man. If
yeah,
I don't
yeah, I
ask you.
know. But this is what I would like to know also, when I
Yeah.
could be back. But like, what we are following very closely what the physios are saying down in Qatar, who we worked a lot with. And they say, I still need more weeks to get ready. We're working a lot on the plyometric stuff. So like the last kind of sprinting the last bounce through the corners to get me real comfortable to move everywhere in the court, because obviously, before my injury, I was a great mover. I need to feel like I move great before coming back. So, there's still some things I have to do better, but we're playing games now. We're playing, points, drilling, every kind of sessions, 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours on the course.
Mm.
So honestly, it's really starting to feel well. And as I said also in my kind of press release for Wimbledon, that knee is feeling great, Achilles is feeling great. So there's no injuries anymore. Now it's just about optimizing stuff and getting ready to compete again.
Yeah, and I think that's what we always want as players, to be able to feel like we can be explosive. And you've had these times away from competition. What are you most looking forward to experiencing again once you're back on the tour?
Everything. I mean, especially the competition, the adrenaline, I'm missing the excitement. And I think, us as tennis players, we cannot stimulate that in any other way. Sport is so crazy and so rare in that way. And this is why sport is amazing. But just go out there and be the best version of myself. I think I've had so much time to really improve myself mentally, physically, and even on my tennis during this time. I had, time and opportunity to change a few things in my game and in my approach to the game. Um, which I think can be really like helpful for me, because I remember I was like last year in the summertime, I told myself I wish I could have like 2 months off where I could just
Hmm.
like really dig deep, take my time off, and go really deep into the practice. But obviously, being not injured, you're never going to really do that. So I think maybe it was some higher God who said, okay, now I'm going to give you this time and you can really focus on the things and get back stronger.
Well, it's so good that you're seeing obviously the positive in this, because I mean, I know you are going to come back stronger and better than you've ever been. What are those things that you mentioned that you've been able to change in your game?
Yeah, so well, technically we made a little difference on the forehand in the beginning, because I was, still keeping the shoulder and everything a little bit alive, and we were like, okay, what can we work on, and we changed the small things and tried to optimize some things on the forehand, and a little bit on the preparation, which seems to work well also now when I'm playing at a higher pace. And then, obviously getting back on my both legs, we worked hours and hours and hours on my serve. So
Mm.
hopefully we'll be able to see that when I come back.
Yeah.
Not to put too much pressure on myself, but that's I mean, one of if not the most important shot in tennis. And then a lot on my footwork. Obviously
Mm.
I would consider myself a great mover, but we've been working a lot on my aggressive movement patterns on the court, how we can cut the ankles better in the corner, stepping into the ball better, being more efficient in general in the aggressive
Mm.
phase of the game, the transition to the net, stuff like that, which is really interesting. And I think, obviously I was a great mover before, but I think sometimes I was just taking maybe 1, 2 steps to the ball instead of being more efficient, like a few
Mhm.
big steps and some smaller steps, and the whole body weight through the ball and stuff like this. So really going deep into details and having time for it has been beautiful, actually.
Well, and like you said, you're going deep into details. You've been able to watch probably a lot of tennis now in these 9 months away from the game. Is that kind of what you've dissected that maybe you were missing, and what some of these players are now getting better at? What have you learned as far as some of these players? What are they getting better at these days?
Yeah, actually, I haven't watched that much tennis, to be
Mm.
fair. I mean, I watched obviously the big matches, and right after the injury, I watched quite a lot, like from Basel, Paris, and Turin, because I was just with my leg up,
Yeah.
But otherwise, my days has been crazy, like I'm not even joking, like 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening with
Oof.
nonstop training and rehab and
Yeah.
what not to do. So it's been brutal, but no, I think obviously we have young guys coming up as well, and it's honestly it's looking great for tennis. I think everybody's hitting the ball pretty big, from both sides. So it's about you know trying to use the game that I have, and and
Mm.
and I think I have a lot to my game that I need to use when I go out there. I shouldn't think that, okay, I should only play one way when I play a match, because I have many tools, and I think it's important that I use them. The
Yeah.
slice, the drop shots, the aggressive way, even when I play defenses, like, commit to the defensive shots as well,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. I think that's when I played my best. I was really, committed, to also adjust in matches, not to be like, okay, this is just one way, either I win or I lose. Like, I think the best players in the world, again, are the one that adapts the best to each conditions, each player, obviously with their own game. But yeah, that's what I've been noticing.
Yeah, it's so amazing that you've taken this time to reflect on what you can do better. And
Mhm.
where does that drive come from? You've always been known as one of the hardest workers on tour. Where does that drive come from?
Probably never satisfied, I would say. I think things can always get better, and this is also what's always driven me with tennis. You know, when I was really young, obviously kids, then you play some video games, then you get to a level and you can get better. And I think this is the beauty with our sport is there's always something to improve.
Yeah,
And still, and still for the best players, they're always you see Yannick and Carlos now they're seeking for improvements everywhere, and I think now that we know obviously more stuff and I have more experience, it's not only about the tennis also, it's also about
yeah.
how can we improve the nutrition, the physical training, the treatment, the recovery, and everything. And I think this part of the journey is very exciting also. And then if you spend the hours on the court with a good intensity and not just quantity over quality, I think then you get better.
Yeah.
I mean, now I use like Zverev as an example. He's training a lot, I think, a lot of repetition. And look, he's been top three for like 10 years, and now he finally got his first slam, which is so well deserved, I think. So many people try to be like, oh, which is the round to get to that level? And I think, at least for me, also after my injury, it's very, very clear what to do to get to that level. I
Mhm.
mean, there's no shortcut, it's hard work and do the right things.
What does a typical day look like for you right now? You mentioned 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So coming back
Yeah.
from injury, getting ready to get back on the court, how did those hours pan out? What does it look like for you?
So now it looks like we start around 9 in the morning with some special balance training for my ankle to get some focus there with some breathing exercises also. So we do that for around an hour and a half actually, together
Mm.
with a little bit of warm up and loading my Achilles to get ready for court. Then we train for about 2 hours tennis now. Then I have my lunch. I'm starting a very strict nutrition plan also, so to get fit for matches again. Um, and then I rest a little bit. I started to nap actually quite a lot during the day because it's early awake. Sleep is important. So yeah, probably a quick nap, watch some World Cup. Obviously that's clean plate now, and then we have our physical training, which is everything from an hour and a half to 2 hours, and also on how I feel, how fatigued I am, and everything. And then there's all the recovery process with obviously different machines and the basic recovery with massage physiotherapist for about an hour and a half. So you know now it's what 8:30 here. I just finished like 7:45 before. So it's just from 9 in the morning, and then obviously I
Wow.
have a little rest and then finish at 8. So
Well, there's
yeah,
no easy steps or fast steps to becoming a champion. I mean, you're taking
mm,
all the steps to do the right
yeah,
thing. Now looking at Wimbledon, this is the next major coming up.
yeah.
You're going to have the rare perspective of being able to watch it. I remember in 2023, you made the quarterfinals there. You got through a tough, I think it was third round. You played Davidovich Fokina,
Yeah.
5 sets. You saved 2 match points, then beat Grigor in the fourth round, then lost to Carlos Alcaraz there in the quarters. Now you're going to have the perspective of watching it. What makes a great grass court tennis player? And then also on the men's side, who are your kind of favorites to do well there?
Yeah, I think the first question, what makes a great grassroots player is I think it's about playing aggressive, having good court positioning is very important there, and then being balanced on the sides. And I think that's
Mhm.
also why we've seen Yannick played so well over the years in Wimbledon and Carlos as well. Best movers are the best players. So I think that's at least for me every time I went on grass, the biggest change is the movement, not really the
Mhm.
timing or anything, but just like how to organize yourself in the corners, how to organize yourself on short ball and your sprints and your
Mhm.
de-acceleration and all of this. Um, so I think that those things are going to be very important, and I think still Yannick is going to be the favorite, but let's
Yeah.
see. I mean, everything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen there. And,
Mm.
obviously, Holger, we've been talking about how you've been making changes to your forehand, and you've always had one of the most feared forehands on tour, but you continue to look for those changes. What are 2 or 3 tips that you can give them on the forehand to focus on to make it better?
So I think early preparation and create space to the ball. And at least for me, what we've been working on is putting like the weight transfer, as I mentioned in the beginning, the weight transfer like through the ball and a little bit to the right, because I think
Yeah.
many players have the temptation to go too much to the left, like before they finish the shots, to get like closer to the middle, but I think you lose a lot of power in that way. So it's better to finish the shot properly and make it a great shot. And like this, you're in a more like aggressive position for the next one.
Well, Holger, I mean, we cannot wait to have you back
Mm.
on court. I know you're in Monte Carlo. How hot is it
Mhm.
there right now? You said it's a heat wave?
It's like 32 degrees and humidity is brutal, man. I'm going through 5 to 6 t-shirts per training.
Man, you got to get
Yeah,
that salt in the drink
yeah,
and
I
continue.
gotta. Yeah,
You gotta get that
it's
salt.
here. It's here.
Look at that. There it is right there. Well, Holger, thanks so much
Yeah,
for taking the time, my man.
of
And
course.
I know all the tennis fans, myself, we're all looking forward to you getting back on court. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks so much. Pleasure.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Our next segment is brought to you by ServiceNow.
All right, guys. And now we have the mid-year awards. We're just 1 week away from Wimbledon, and all these players have already been playing for 6 months. So we have our ATP and WTA Player of the Year, also the Newcomers of the Year, and then the Story of the Year. I'll go ahead and start first. For me, on the ATP side, it's Jannik Sinner. Jannik Sinner, pretty obvious, 76-6 in his last 52 weeks. But this year, he's 37-3. That's a 92.5 win percentage. And also all the Masters he's been winning, just been winning at a continuous clip. The only thing that stops him is the heat. On the women's side, the Player of the Year, Sabalenka for me. Okay, she hasn't won a Grand Slam, but I'm going to go with just her win percentage, 31-4. 88.6% win percentage. That's the highest on the WTA tour. She's obviously winning at a high clip. Sure, hasn't won a slam yet, but that's right around the corner. I think as any player, you just want to be winning a lot, and then at some point you're gonna take that title. Newcomer of the year, Rafa Hodar. This is the guy that started the year 165 in the world. Now he's at 23 in the world, and we're already talking about this guy maybe winning majors. At Roland Garros, he was a possibility, a top 5 pick to maybe win at Roland Garros. So that's on the ATP side. On the women's side, it's Walenska, obviously making the finals at Roland Garros. I mean, she showed all the variety that she has in her game, and I think that can translate into any surface. I think she just needed the confidence by making the finals at Roland Garros. It's going to give her confidence going forward. The story of the year for me is Alexander Zverev winning at Roland Garros. You know, this was a guy who everyone was saying, and I was thinking as well, the best player to not have won a slam yet. And to seize the moment, to seize the opportunity with Carlos Alcaraz out with a left wrist injury, Jannik Sinner going down to the heat at RG, and to seize that moment of not getting too nervous when it mattered most, right? I spoke with Misha Zverev, and he said throughout RG, we just didn't talk about it. There was the elephant in the room, but we literally did not talk about it at dinner. We let him be, we let him have his space. And the way he was able to handle that, and in that fifth set, he showed all of his hard work really paid off in the fifth set. He believed in himself when it mattered most. So Alexander Zverev getting his first Grand Slam, that's definitely the story of the year for me. And DC, I'm going to go with you next.
So ATP and WTA Player of the Year is easy. It's the same as you, Nick. I'm going with Sinner and Sabalenka. I don't think there's anyone that's comparable to Sinner at the moment with some of his achievements. And I think for Sabalenka, like you said, she didn't win a Grand Slam this year, but with her previous Grand Slam history and also picking up back-to-back Indian Wells and Miami, I thought that was an incredible
The Sunshine Double.
Yeah, picking up the Sunshine Double, I think that was pretty special. I would love to see her do well at Wimbledon and US Open. Huge Sabalenka fan. Love her game. The ATP and WTA Newcomer of the Year, I am going to go with Walenska. And I'm probably going to go with Hodar. I'm a little bit biased, right? Because he went to UVA.
He went to
and so did
Virginia.
I, so I
Okay,
have to
okay.
claim
We knew you
him.
were going to do that.
Yeah, but everything that he's been doing this year has been so impressive. He's been working so hard, and his transition from college to the pros has just been remarkable. I just can get behind somebody that's gone to college so easily. So I thought that was really impressive. Well, I'm going with Walenska because of, I think her result at the French Open speaks for itself. What she did there was pretty amazing. And I think she's someone that's going to establish herself as a top player, at least in the top 20. I think she has some really impressive tools and she's an incredible athlete. And for story of the year, I want to go with Stara Dubsova. I feel like Stara
Wow.
Dubsova's emergence from college to the pros has been unbelievable. I am so happy that she is getting more sponsorship and recognition because her story is so unique. She's Ukrainian. She was actually teaching at a country club while also playing on the ITF side. Um, I just have so much respect for anyone that hustles like that. And I know the feeling. I had to raise capital out of college to start my career and get a business loan in order to have the means to be able to play. And it takes a lot to be a professional tennis player. So I have so much respect for Stara Dubsova and everything that she has gone through, both on and off the court. Amazing. On the men's side, I think we have to acknowledge the success.
No, you only get one
of-
story.
We only get one story
Well,
of the year,
that's
but we'll
it.
take Stara Dubsova.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
you crushed
Great.
it.
I don't have to talk about
BG.
Anyone.
Okay, I'll buzz through it pretty quick. I begrudgingly go Sinner. He's had a great year, but no hardware. He would give up all those ATP titles to have won at least one major. The fact that he's had that great of a year and not won a major, for him, it's actually a disappointing year. I will go differ than you guys, not going Sabalenka. She's left a lot of hardware on the table. I will go with Andreeva as the player of the year, and she is number one in the race. I think she has a great chance to finish the year number one and win another major. How about the country of Spain for the men's newcomer of the year? We obviously got Hodar, but we got to throw in Landaluce. This guy's come from nowhere as well. So Spain has,
Landaluce.
Lana
Yeah.
Luth.
yes, say it properly. Thank you.
For our Spanish friends at home.
Yeah. And same like you guys. What a great feel-good story. And Fralinska. I mean, normally at her age, you don't give a newcomer on that, but she hasn't played on the main tour, and hopefully she can back that up. And I have a story that's the biggest story of the year by far, is the Alcaraz injury. This is the biggest story of the year for me because he is the most viewed player, male or female. He is so missed. We would have never had anything happen like we had happen at the French Open had he been playing. He's sorely missed. So his injury, I feel like, has kind of, it's opened up opportunity for a lot of players. But I think it just shows how much the smiling assassin has been missed because he's so fun to watch.
Well, you're so right. I mean, I was speaking of Alexander Zverev as my story of the year, and that's because of not having Alcaraz in the draw. The belief system in the locker room just opened up. But also, guys, you watch these players nowadays, and how many players are you seeing now that are getting the crowd pumped up more, that are going to the ear with their finger? They're on the changeover, going to the crowd. Come on. I mean, these players are engaging the fans more and more now because of what Carlos Alcaraz has done. I mean, that Alcaraz effect is present, right? I mean, don't you see that, DC?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely give credit to Alcaraz, but not all the credit. I mean, there's been plenty of entertainers, on the men's and women's side that have kind of helped push that forward. I think, tennis is having its moment. We have more eyes on our sport than ever, and that's not just because of one player. That's because of the depth that we have on the women's side and also the men's side. We had some of the highest viewership in Tennis Channel history during Miami Open and at Indian Wells for viewership on the women's side. So that was pretty spectacular. And I think tennis is really having its moment. And it's a big credit to all of these hardworking athletes that we have that have created this culture of depth across the board. And just these amazing matches. I feel like the draws have really opened up, especially on the men's side for sure. And it's allowed, now players like Zverev to have the opportunity to get a chance at picking, and he did. He ended up winning a Grand Slam, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Wimbledon, right? So, I think it's a combination of everyone's hard work and the great matches we see, week after week.
It is interesting to see all the players asking for some love. You know, it's funny is if it's a serve bot asking for love, it's like your game is not very fun to watch, you know,
You
but
got to hit a few more balls to get the love.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
it does help when you have kind of a fun game to watch when you're
Yeah.
asking for a little love, or you have a personality that the fans are kind of gravitating to. Sometimes you see some of these players with a little bit of dour demeanor, and then they're asking for love. It's like, okay, show a little more to the crowd. They will give you a lot back.
Who do you want to see giving a little bit more to the crowd?
Um, I think on the women's side, I'd love to see a Mira Andreeva give a little bit more to the crowd. I'd love to see a Rybakina, right? I mean, she's got the big serve and she won the Australian Open. And it was almost like, wait, did I win the title? No one really knew. You know, those are names that are at the top of the game, and you want to see them kind of engage the crowd a little bit more. Obviously, it's not within their personality, but even if it's just a little bit, it gets the crowd even more involved with them.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, we can't ignore that moment that Mira Andreeva had at Indian Wells. I mean, it may not have been the most fun-loving interaction with that one fan, but I can guarantee you that lady, she went back to her country club and that's all they were talking about. That made that lady's whole year. So good or bad, you know, the interactions, I think it gives everybody, you know, a bit of a smile or laugh, you know?
All right, another thing that we have to hit are player fines. We saw Corentin Moutet in Queens just last week. He beat Pechi Pericard. He was so excited. He hadn't had a lot of wins under his belt. And in his post-match interview, he let out a few F-bombs.
That's so frustrating. You know, when I had the match point, I was on the second serve. Okay, you aim in the middle. Whatever you do, you just put the ball in the court, and then he hates me 142. I was like, I would have to serve, and I would have to.
No F-bombs, please. No, 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 no. Right, Corentin, I'm going to ask you one more question. Apologies, everyone, for the language there. I'm going to ask you one more question, so please keep it clean, okay? You on the grass last week, unfortunately, didn't go your way. What's it like to get your first victory? Okay.
Maybe didn't go quite the way it should have. Got fined $40,000. I believe his prize money was only 42,000. DC, what do you think about that?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. You know, the profanity, it doesn't bother me as much, especially when it's not done in a malicious way. It wasn't like he told the lady to, you know, F off or F you. He just was kind of saying it in reaction to how he was playing and what was going on. And it kind of just seemed like a silly moment. The other thing too, okay, yeah, he ended up saying the F word 4 times. Okay, but it wasn't done in a malicious way, in my opinion. But I guess I get it. There's kids in the crowd, whatnot. My only thing is, look, how do they come up with these numbers, $40,000? I mean, Sam Query told me that some of I guess the fines go towards a charity, which is kind of cool. But like,
Is that at every tournament? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
if that's every tournament. My other thing too is I don't know if this is the case for Moutet, and I'm just talking about this generally. I think if you are a repeat offender where you keep getting fined money for, you know, whether it's throwing your racket, cussing, any of the things you could potentially get fined for, I strongly believe that we should make these players do community service. And some of that community service could be something like going and picking up trash on the side of the highway. Okay. You know, going out there, picking up trash, serving the community well, or spending time with some sick children that need the company or elderly people, potentially scanning badges at Wimbledon. It could be great for the community. It could also be a great way to, you know, teach people that, you know, the sport is bigger than just yourself and it's about the community.
I like that. So you're saying community service at the tournament. So during that week, it'll be community service that week. I like that.
I mean, in some way too, if you get, you know, held with the task of cleaning toilet bowls, you're going to think about it before you smash your racket against the chair umpire's chair, right? You know, you're going to start thinking about these things a little bit more seriously.
Moutet doesn't have like good equity built up. I think he's gotten $140,000 fine before, lots of fines. Yeah, the fines are very arbitrary, but the lady announcer warned him, please don't do it. Even though he did it like kind of jokingly, it wasn't malicious. It was just kind of a dumb joke. I thought the fine was a little excessive. Didn't a guy get fined at the French like 65,000 for saying about the lady umpire? I mean, that was, and he was really ranked low, so they are cracking down hard, on players. I think probably next is coming when players chastise people on social media. So you have to be aware all the time.
You have to be aware all the time. What was interesting in that moment, I felt like Mute, obviously, he was just so happy that he won. So he wasn't even
Yeah.
thinking about kind of what
Yeah.
he was saying. He probably didn't think he was going to get fined. He wasn't thinking about kids in the crowd as he should have been, but he was just so happy that he won. I mean, we already know on the grass, you get fined if you throw your racket down on the grass and make a little mark there. But I agree with you, DC. I think community service, that sounds different and fun.
Yeah,
I
Brad, do
like
you have
it.
any community service orders you would give out? Any specific
Uh,
tasks you'd like to see these players doing?
well, just the exasperation of having to play a serve bot like Petchy Perry card is enough. But
That would be his punishment?
How about
no,
going on the
that's
court and
scary.
being a ball boy for like a set, you
yeah,
know?
you know what I would actually like to see? Here's a penalty. You actually got to go umpire a match.
Just don't put Mute as the referee on my court. I think we know how that would go.
The Big T fan mail is presented by ServiceNow.
Guys, and heading on to our next segment, fan mail presented by Service Now. We got a grass court question, as it's the grass season right now. Coming from Richard in the DMV. I watch a lot of tennis. Each grass court season, it seems to me that in the men's game, they hit better targets on their serves than any other surface. It just seems like there are more aces and more unreturnables than the other surfaces, and not just because it's a quick grass court, but because they hit the corners more often than usual. Do you also see this? BG, I'll go to you first.
Great question. We're coming from the clay, where you use your serve a little bit differently. You can go to the 3/4 working serve, and you can kind of work your serve, use the kick a little more. On grass, even though the surface when you hit up and down the court is slower, the serve is still dominant as ever on grass. The return is more of a challenge. So if as a coach and a player, you're looking to hit smaller targets, you're looking to hit corners, you're thinking about winning the point. I used to tell Roddick when I was coaching him, the best opportunity on grass, win the point outright right now on your serve. If you got a lead 30-love, 40-15, think about winning the point on your second serve. So I do think the ball runs away from you. It stays lower. And still, a lot of guys aren't making the adjustment to making a smaller swing on grass. But you get a huge benefit from hitting your targets and your spots, and the ball runs away from you. But it does even start with smaller guys thinking, geez, I can win a lot more free points on this surface than anywhere else.
DC, did you change your service thoughts on grass?
Not necessarily. I think I probably incorporated a little bit more body serves, which didn't lead me to more aces, but it probably led me to having a higher first serve percentage of points won. Brad honestly couldn't have said that better. Mwah.
Yeah, I think on grass, as you mentioned,
I
Brad,
agree.
on grass, as you mentioned, it's just a server's mentality, right? I think you have
Yep.
to believe that, okay, I'm going to go for aces more. I'm going to go for my serve and then get maybe a shorter ball to then serve and volley on, or a short ball to attack on, right? You're going for your spots a little bit more on the clay court. You use the kick serve more. Now on the grass, you don't see the kick as much, right? You see more
Yeah.
slice into the body or slice to a target that kind of will skid away from the opponent. And so, as you mentioned, Brad, on grass, you just got to see it as, how can I maybe finish a point with a serve?
You know what's the dumb serve on grass? Where you just kind of lay your serve in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can
And then the
line up
grass
only-
just sits it up there and lets the guy just
Yeah,
take it.
exactly.
You can't do that.
It-
Yeah.
You can't do that
You
on the
need-
grass.
you need to hit your target. And if you hit your target, you can win the point outright. So, and there's nothing like winning free points. You
Yeah.
get some free points, it kind of lifts a whole entire of your game.
And
Yeah.
it saves you some energy too for the rest of the season ahead.
I mean, on the grass too, it's like, wait a second, you don't want to be in extended rallies. It's like, okay, how many points can I make in less than 4 shots, right? So that serve really sets it up. BG, we have a lot of weekend warriors that are out playing tennis, getting on the courts at all times of the day. I want you to give your 2 immediate tips to help the weekend warriors out on the courts.
Okay. First and foremost, if you see me every once in a while at 6 a.m., find a wall. A wall is your friend. I see way too many weekend warriors when they're warming up, missing way too many balls. Make, miss, big shot, miss. Start out when you're warming up, focus on your feet, make balls. When you make balls, you get into a rhythm, you start to relax. It's like making a couple of layups in basketball, then you can make a 3. So I find way too many players, especially junior players, they're just making and missing and going too big. But if you get in that nice little easy rhythm, especially if you're a 3-5 or 4-0 player, you feel so much more confident about your game. And secondly, I think this can help a lot of players. Is every once in a while when you got a little time off, we're always used to playing, but take a little time where you actually want to work on your game, one specific shot. And I think that the shot that maybe is the most overlooked shot that we don't work on, I call it's the free throw. It's the short ball down the middle of the court to your forehead. You probably get 30 times a set. So if you can get a ball machine or get somebody feeding you, set up targets. And I call, you want to take the lead in the point. You can go inside out. You can go cross. You can go line. But work on that easy forehand. So when you get into a game and match situation, you feel confident with that. So take a little bit of time. We tend to neglect the easy shots.
Brad, this is why these players have paid you the big bucks to be on their team. Your feedback is so good. I couldn't agree with you more about telling these 3.5, 4.0, in that range to kind of focus on when they're warming up to put balls in the court. Because let's face it, when they go out for the matches, if they can play consistently, they're going to probably beat, 80% of the players they're playing against if they can play consistently for them. It's not like on tour when you have to kind of play to win. I think at that level, you should be focusing on trying not to beat yourself and not, and also like playing not to lose in a way.
Well,
DC, you're gonna wait a minute. DC, you're gonna like this. You're a Virginia grad. You're of higher learning. I've told a lot of 3, 5, and 4-0 club players this and juniors. The 1 in 10 shots, where you're stretched out and they try to pull the trigger, and occasionally you do make the 1 in 10 shot.
Yeah.
You don't get 2 or 3 points for that. But that it seems like so many people are so pumped about the 1 or 2 winners, and they forget about the math of missing all of them.
Yeah.
And yet when they get the easy ball, they don't want to go for it because they don't want to miss it. And I'm always like, go for the easy one. And then when you're pushed into corners, stay in the point.
Yeah.
I feel like the name of the game is put balls in the court. DC, you and I were playing some tennis a couple of days ago. We were playing a little dingles. You still don't miss. I mean, you haven't played in how long and you still don't miss.
And that's crazy because my racket hadn't been strung since 2020, that racket that I played with. And I was, Brad, you would have been impressed. I mean, I don't think I ever played a real match where I was that consistent, but the dingles, I mean, I didn't miss a ball. It was crazy.
Did you get a piece of him?
Oh yeah. Me and Vicky, we beat the boys. We had to end up breaking, it was me and Vicky Duval against Nick and Chiz. Well, we ended up having to break up the teams and we had to switch it up. I had to play with Chiz, then I had to play with Nick because it was like we were too stacked between me and
Chiz
Vicky.
Spearhand?
Honestly, he's kind of like the Manarino of the Griffin Tennis Club, I would say.
Does he even hit it that hard? He's a little bit more of a
That's what I was telling him. I'm like, you're kind of like the Manarino. He's a bit of a pusher. He kind of like takes, he just kind of takes all of your pace and he gives you this really soft neutral ball. It was kind of like a little bit of a push fest, but I respect the pushers. Look, nothing wrong with a good pusher, especially if you are like a club level player. I feel like a lot of the club level players, it's great because they get inspired by a lot of what the professionals do on court. But I like to say during my commentating, hey, don't try this at home. This is this is a move that if you're going to do this in a match, you got to have it really perfected. It's fine to take some chances in practice, but if you're playing some league matches and really want to, do well. You're
I'm
going
a
to have to
happy
be
pusher.
consistent. You got to watch Brad Gilbert.
I'm a
If
lifelong
watch some
happy
of Brad
pusher.
Gilbert's old matches. If you want to excel your game at the 3.0, 3.5, 4.0 level, league tennis level, watch Brad. Brad's a great example. He'll never beat himself. He's so consistent. He's literally like playing against a wall.
Brad, that's why you hit against the wall. That's why you have the book. That's why you have the book Winning Ugly, because you know how to win. So the name of the game, put the ball in the court. Brad, I love those tips. DC, what do you got the rest of the day? You're going to be hitting some forehands later, a little dingles, or no?
Oh God, no. I got to go to physical therapy, my back. So you guys know the story with my back. So
I know.
I'll get
All
into
right.
that
Well,
today.
don't forget to subscribe, tennis fans, wherever you get your podcasts. Watch us on YouTube and the Tennis Channel app. And don't forget, this Saturday, we will release our Wimbledon preview show. BG and DC, so much fun.